Your yard. What is it to you? Something you walk around in? A chore? Just part of the package that came with the home? Well, what if I told you your yard could be a hero? That's right, a hero. To our lakes and rivers, to our threatened wildlife, and to all of us who rely on the underground water supply. It's time to transform your yard, cut down on the turf, and let your property live up to its true potential. It's time to join the rain garden revolution. What's a rain garden? It's more than your average flower bed. It's a basin designed to reclaim stormwater and trickle it back into the earth. Without this type of planting, stormwater races down our driveways and roads, picks up pollutants, and jumps into waterways unchecked and unfiltered. Stormwater runoff impacts recreation and our lakes' health. Beach closures are more frequent and happen earlier every summer, and some forms of blue-green algae generated by fertilizer runoff into lakes have sickened dogs and people. We value and depend on our lakes, rivers, and groundwater, and we're at a turning point in history. Our natural resources simply won't last if things don't change. Your rain garden can make a difference, and this program will walk you through a short how-to about creating a rain garden, and then get specific with some key maintenance tips to keep it on track to provide maximum benefit over many years. Sometimes called an infiltration basin, a rain garden is designed and excavated to ensure that water drains within 48 hours to avoid mosquito growth and other issues. It can be as simple as using a front yard planting near the street to intercept and absorb the stormwater from your roof, downspouts, and drive. These specially designed rain gardens are the opposite of a bermed planting. They are created in a shallow depression and range in size roughly from 400 to 600 square feet. The rain garden uses deep-rooted native flowering perennials, clump grasses, and small shrubs to accomplish absorption. Rain gardens should be planted away from the root systems of trees and avoid underground utilities like gas and electric lines. Rain gardens should also trap sediment like leaves, grass clippings, and even the occasional candy wrapper if you have a curb-cut rain garden. Websites like Blue Thumb and the Universities of Minnesota and Wisconsin have resource material and plant species suggestions to create a successful rain garden. So whether you're just getting ready to step on board or you have a rain garden started already, stay tuned for some advice from experienced rain garden professionals and turn your yard into a superstar. Thanks for joining us. First things first, let's introduce the host of today's program, Kay Qualley.
Hi, I'm Kay Qualley. I'm an environmental planner for the city of Fridley. Today we're talking about how to take care of and maintain a rain garden once it's been installed.
We're going to start off with some tips for the initial year of installation. Good for you, getting those plants in the ground. But beyond the plants, there's another key ingredient you've got to keep in mind: mulch.
When the rain garden goes in, typically hardwood shredded mulch is applied at a rate of 3 inches in depth. And the reason for 3 inches is within the establishment period of most perennial plants, 2 years of establishment means about 1.5 inches of deterioration of the bark each year. So on year 1, if you start out with 3 inches, after 2 full seasons, you'll have 0.
Mulch will be a huge help in keeping out weeds and holding everything in place. It also amends the soil when it breaks down, increasing water absorption. But even with mulch applied, be prepared to lose a few plants in the beginning. A major rainfall could wash away seedlings before they get established. It's a good idea to keep track of what you planted. A rain garden journal is sure to come in handy. Here are a few more quick reminders for your rain garden's installation year. Don't forget to water plants, increasing the amount during the hot part of the summer. Even native plants need water during establishment. Regularly remove accumulated trash, debris, and sediment. Wait, accumulated trash, debris, and sediment? This may sound unappealing, but remember, this is the benefit of the rain garden. Preventing this gunk from damaging trout streams, lakes, and rivers is what it's all about. And before you get scared away, you should know there are techniques and devices to make this cleanup a cinch. Kay joins water conservation specialist Mitch Haustein to discuss one method, the Rain Guardian pre-treatment chamber.
So we're here, Kay, to talk a bit about different inlet types to curb-cut rain gardens. We're on essentially the shores of Crooked Lake here in Andover. We're standing in front of a curb-cut rain garden which accepts stormwater runoff from the roadway and all impervious surfaces upstream. It's a shallow depression in the front yard that allows that water to enter and soak in. One of the challenges that we have with these types of rain gardens is the amount of sediment and debris that gets carried into these gardens and how to best deal with that for whomever's doing the maintenance. And in a lot of cases, it's homeowners. One option we have here in this particular garden is a rain guardian pretreatment chamber. And it's a great option for folks with curb cut rain gardens because what it does, it provides not only a stable inlet and a controlled inlet for water to enter the garden, but it also does a great job of capturing sediment. It captures leaf litter, it captures garbage that may pass through. It also does a good job of capturing a lot of seeds, for instance, maple seeds. We capture those seeds in the pretreatment chamber so they don't have a chance to germinate within the rain garden and minimize some of the weeding for the homeowner as well.
So one of the things that I've been curious about, because I haven't actually done the maintenance on a rain guardian device that captures the sediment as you explained, I'm hoping that you'll show us how to do that.
Clean out of these is very simple. It's typically a 5-minute task or less. So just start by lifting that grate back and putting the coarser debris down into the chamber itself. The grate simply slides back into the curb cut. Use a standard square shovel to clean out the chamber. And once we have the chamber itself cleaned out, can take out the filter frame, which slides into a slot. The filter frame can then just be brushed off into the garbage can. We also periodically recommend that the homeowner take the filter frame out and rinse it with a hose just to kind of give it a little additional cleaning. Once that's done, the grate can be replaced and the maintenance is complete.
That did go very quickly. You know, the homeowner for this particular, well-developed and lovely rain garden said, when I asked him, how much time does it take you to take care of this garden? An hour a week, 3 hours a week? Said, oh no, maybe 2 hours a month, maybe 3. And if you add that to the rain garden cleanout, that's pretty reasonable for the amount of color and wildflowers we've got here.
So we're talking a handful of hours a month to maintain an established rain garden, especially with the help of an inlet device like the Rain Guardian. You can handle that, right? And there are some innovative homegrown solutions to capturing that sediment too. You can also use larger stone pieces like flagstone, riprap, small boulders, or even a grass filter strip as the inlet into your rain garden. Now let's jump back into our year-by-year checklist. In growing season 1, be aware of invaders, be it the turf grass from your lawn or weeds that sneak into the basin. Here's Kay with some year 1 tips.
One of the things that you can do is edge your garden to delineate the border to keep grass from creeping in, and perennial grass, turf grass, is very aggressive and becomes a maintenance headache quickly. So keeping it from creeping in the first place, if you can, especially after you get it well planted, in other words, a season or 2 into the planting for sure, edging should be clearly delineating the garden from any turf grass areas. So that's number 1.
Edging will be a good defense against the lawn creeping back in, but we still have to deal with the weeds, which can be grassy types or leafy weeds, and either perennial, so they stick around and only get more troublesome, or annual weeds, which die at the end of the growing season, usually after depositing hundreds of unwanted seeds to wreak havoc next year.
One of the most insidious weeds in any perennial garden, wildflower garden, or in our case, rain garden, is quackgrass. Quackgrass can spread rapidly with underground tillers and rhizomes and start popping up and creating colonies, which has happened somewhat in this area. It might have started as just a couple of plants, but its ability to rapidly reproduce can threaten an entire area. The best time to get rid of quackgrass is after a rain, and so you can take a long-handled trowel, take the parent plant of the quackgrass and slide under the tillers and runners with a long-handled trowel and get the entire plant. If you break off quackgrass, it just pops up another plant, so you need to do a thorough job of it, and that's one of the worst pests. So we would want to get rid of something like that as quickly as we see it develop. So weeds like plantains, dandelions, thistles. Pulling them manually is the preferred method. Some people use glyphosate, which is Roundup, if it gets into an extreme situation and the beds are threatened. The best thing to do is to keep on top of it. 15 minutes of weeding a day, it's not too painful. It gets your 15 minutes of exercise done.
In addition to edging and establishing a weeding routine, make sure to backfill any erosion washouts where stormwater has made its own path. Also, replacing any plants that didn't thrive is important because gaps in the garden equal weeds moving in. Now let's move on to growing season 2. Growing season 2 is when a lot of little things can catch up to you. Here are some common year 2 pitfalls. Forgot about watering during dry spells. Weeds like dandelions blew in. Mulch decomposed. Perennial weeds started to spread under the foliage of desirable plants, robbing the good guys of nutrients and water. Forgot to clean the sediment and debris out of the rain garden, and it killed plants, or doesn't look as good. Plants were selected that will not achieve enough density to ever grow together. To that last point, here's Kay near a planting of false indigo.
Try to use drifts and massings of plants of one species or 2 or 3 or 4 species, but in enough quantities that you know that it's a weed or a plant. And if you have enough spacing such that the plants can grow their optimum widths and heights and not crowd each other, but not so far apart like we have here, where weed invaders can creep in, you'll have a more successful low-maintenance rain garden.
Maybe you don't think a few little weeds sneaking into the spaces is a big deal. Well, a few little sprouts may turn into more than you bargained for.
The rain garden moist environment is ideal for germinating tree species that can really create problems with the rain garden. So Chinese Siberian elms, like I'm holding in my hand here, need to be gotten rid of soon. When they're seedlings, they look pretty innocent, but very quickly they turn into trees. And their root systems can rob the native wildflowers of needed nutrients and moisture. And also some other things that are a little bit pesty, like this polygonum that has small pinkish white flowers to it, is something that you need to get rid of. It's somewhat of an invasive species. They look cute when they're blooming, but when these seed heads start spreading around, next year you're going to have thousands of them growing in the garden, so we don't want that.
So be sure to keep your intended plants growing in nice full masses and promptly replace any areas that just aren't filling out by year 2. If one species you thought would work really isn't, switch to another plant of the appropriate size and conditions for its location. Next up, Kay and Mitch show us some examples of mature rain gardens in their 3rd growing season or beyond.
This is an example of a curb cut rain garden. It's kind of a unique scenario. We have water coming to this particular garden from both directions. It's located on a corner. So we have water coming down that enters a curb cut on one side of the catch basin or the storm drain. We also have water coming down from the other direction. If this rain garden weren't here, the storm water would run down into the storm drain and get piped directly to Crooked Lake. Because of the rain garden and because it was placed in this specific location, we're able to divert that storm water into the garden where it can infiltrate and remove sediments, grass clippings, leaves, any other pollutants that are coming from the roadways and any of the rooftops or driveways.
So there was a nice example of an established rain garden really doing its job. Maybe yours isn't flawless at this stage of the game. You're not alone. Here, Kay and Mitch take a look at an older garden in need of a revamp.
This particular garden here, Kay, has a couple of inlets that don't have any form of pretreatment. They may actually have some rock inlet or a grass filter strip at one time, but that is now covered up with sediment, and basically all you have is a pile of debris and sediment right at the inlet. There's a couple of things that can happen with that. Number one, it's a maintenance nightmare. It takes a long time and a lot of effort to get that out of there. And number two, it can actually pile up so deep that it could cause the water to bypass the garden and actually take the rain garden offline, so it's not providing any benefit anymore.
That's actually what it looks like is happening here, because there's almost a speed bump effect if too much sediment builds up in the inlet area. Other things that build up, like invasive species, we've got some good guys here like Deervilla lanicera, which is bush honeysuckle. We've got milkweed for our friends the monarchs, and we've also got things like the glossy black chokeberry in the background. But one of our pesty weed-like plants, polygonum, is in here. A lot of things like grapevine and woodbine in the right situation are perfect, but what's happened to this rain garden back here?
It can get a little bit out of control, and kind of determining when it's best to go in and do some weeding versus actually just come in and try to salvage a few of the key plants, as Kay mentioned, around the edge that might be good native species, and actually maybe just do a scrape or a little bit of additional excavation to remove the years of accumulated sediment and debris, and also a number of the invasive species that have come in, to kind of give this rain garden a fresh start.
You know, plants have a lifespan too, and sometimes it's just best to get a fresh start on things.
To recap, here are some cues that it might be time to reassess your garden. The inlet is clogged and water bypasses entry into the rain garden and heads straight to the storm drain. Water no longer drains within 48 hours. Weed trees and invasive plants have taken hold and are choking out desirable wildflowers and the original plantings. You can no longer locate the plants from the original planting.
So Mitch, what are the real key points to maintaining a rain garden so you don't have to redo it as frequently, and it's low maintenance, like that 2 to 3 hours a month we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the maintenance on these rain gardens is something that kind of evolves over time, if you will. So when the rain garden first goes in and maybe you put plugs or smaller potted plants in there, weeding is going to be something that you're going to have to stay on top of, because there's a lot of space for those invasives or weed species to come in and colonize. Other things that you'll need to do then early on is maybe replenish some of the mulch, because you're seeing a lot of the mulched area before those native plants have really taken up and grown to their full size. You'll also want to make sure you're adding water, about 1 inch per week, to those smaller plants to make sure they survive. If you're dealing with a curb cut rain garden, for instance, an inlet clean out or inlet maintenance is going to be critical throughout the life of that garden. That won't change. The weeding and the watering, those can become less frequent as the rain garden matures, say after 3 years or so.
Well, thanks so much for your time here, Mitch. We've learned lots of interesting new information, and we hope to continue on our path for increasing the number of rain gardens so that our lakes and rivers take lots less storm water and sediment and are much more beautiful in the future. Thanks, you.
Kate.
Well, there you have it. Hopefully these tips will help you take your rain garden from seedlings to success. And if you don't have the right location for a rain garden, remember to use water wisely by deep soaking lawn and garden beds and avoiding runoff in the street. Only fertilize lawn when the grass is actively growing, and save rainwater with rain barrels. Even if you hit a few bumps along the way,